Picture this. It is Friday night. It is sometime in the late 90s. Netflix does not exist, and you sit down to watch TV. There is not even a single question. You know exactly what you're going to be watching. You're going to tune in to ABC to watch TGIF, a full lineup of can't miss TV on a Friday night. And there's one show that you are making sure you are not missing. And that show, my friends, is Full House. Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, who played the youngest sibling on Full House, Michelle. We're going to talk about how they went from Full House to running a complete fashion empire. We'll also talk a little bit about ridiculous rules that we had growing up in the Porter household. And at the end of this episode, we are going to introduce a list that is bound to stir some controversy. And as always, you will get an unhinged text message from a family member. I will warn you up front that there were some connection issues when we were recording this podcast, so there are a couple points where the audio is a little bit patchy, but the content doesn't miss. Let's get into this. This is the Dreyer Drive podcast, a podcast all about siblings and the people, places, and pop culture that raised us. And we are excited that you are here with us for episode 943,226. We've been at this for a long time.
Never stopping.
Never.
Podcasting from the grave.
Which actually is possible because these things will live on forever. And I can imagine in the year 2122, people are coming back and being like, what about those two? On another sibling podcast, they're digging in the archives. And they're talking about us. Hi, world. What's it like?
I told my friend about this and she was like, that's so fun that you're just going to have that like saved, these conversations for like your posterity, like your children's children can listen to you. I was like, they are not going to not want to have any part of this.
I remember 2 weeks ago, you're like, I just want to die unknown. I'm like, we are in the process of putting together world's most popular podcast. And here you are talking about you just want to go unnoticed through life. You are noticed. You are seen. Jacqueline Curtis.
I want my face for this to be pixelated like when on 2020 and then my voice is altered.
Really deep. All right. Well, here we are. New platform, new week. The podcast is currently out in the world. We haven't advertised it yet, but it is out in the world. So it's on Spotify, it's on Overcast, it's on Substack, it's on Apple Podcasts. So the cool thing about Substack, so if you go to DryerDrive.com, it will forward to our Substack. And on the Substack part of the podcast, not only can you listen to the podcast, but we'll also drop in some notes and some visuals and some media that obviously is impossible to do just via the podcast. So for those people that want updates like that, or they want to get some of the behind the scenes screenshots of the texts that we talk about, or screen grabs of Jacqueline's notes that she takes, because I'm sure you're just begging to see those. Yeah, that's where they'll live. So they're all on Substack. And again, if you go to Dreyer Drive, phonetically spelled like Dreyer Drive, shout out Dad. That's where you can find it, and we'll obviously link through from the podcast notes. So thought I would drop that there, but there you have it.
Well, it's out there enough that my daughter was by the pool when we were in Hawaii and she had her headphones on. And I was like, oh, what are you listening to? She's like, your podcast. And I was like, consumption.
Which episode?
The first one, which I'm like, oh boy, maybe you need to start not at the first one.
Yeah, we were just working our way in on that one. They get better with time. Trust me. We're currently like 7 or 8 podcasts. 7. This is the 7th or 8th that we've actually recorded. I feel like they've gotten better.
I definitely feel like they've gotten better.
Let's see. We might have just doomed ourselves. This might be horrible from here.
Watch this one be a train wreck. Actually, it won't be, because it's something that I really want to talk about. So it's like, if I'm going to get passionate about it, then it's going to be a good podcast.
You're going to carry this one?
Don't you worry. Yeah.
Okay. So before we jump in, we do have a question, and I've thoughtfully prepared a question. Yeah. So this week's question: what was the most ridiculous rule we had at home growing up?
Okay. So I'm going to go off of, we had very specific rules around curfew as teenagers. And also, like, sometimes mom really enforced curfew and sometimes it didn't matter, but like you never knew which one it was going to be. Like sometimes she really cared about curfew and sometimes she didn't, and like you could guess one day, be like, maybe today's the day mom doesn't care about curfew, and you'd be wrong. Whatever it was, you were wrong about it. But the rule with curfew is that she locked the doors at curfew. And if you didn't make it in time for curfew, you were truly out on the street for the night. One of two things usually happened. First, we had a tree house in the backyard, which I think we all took turns sleeping in the tree house every so often, which is bonkers to me. We had like cots out there that we would sleep in. And so if you got home past curfew and the door was locked, it was like, I guess I'm sleeping in the tree house tonight. Or I used to have this con that I would run on when I knew I was going to be late for curfew, where I would put my pajamas down in the basement. We had a non-functioning bathroom in the basement. So we always grew up with just one bathroom upstairs, but there was a bathroom in the basement. The family lore is that Jonathan flushed a bowling pin down the toilet when he was little. The bathroom never worked again. So mom and dad just used it for like storage, but you could get in through that window because it didn't actually lock. It had these like little holes that you could stick your finger in. Dad would put these little, like, what would he have? The earplugs. He had these
earplugs.
Yeah.
It was these little screw knobs that you would actually like, it's got like a male and female end, and you would screw them in to plug that hole. And we lost them, or like being kids, we took them out one day and never put them back. And so dad was like, I've got the perfect solution to this problem. And he like got one of those little earplugs, rolled it up, stuck it in the middle, it expanded, solved.
So I could get in through that one because it didn't actually lock. And I'd go in through my stomach through the basement bathroom window down, and I would go put on the pajamas that I had left in the basement earlier that night. And then when I came upstairs, it would wake mom up and she'd be like, where were you? And I would say, oh, I fell asleep watching a movie downstairs. And so those were the two ways that I could get around curfew, either sleeping outside or the pajama in the basement con that I had. The stairs upstairs creaked, so you had to know which ones creaked if you were coming in late too. And if you stepped on the creaky one, like mom was up.
She had dog's hearing. It was like the whistle that only she could hear. The interesting thing for me was that mom would set that curfew, and I think that we believed the curfew was so that like she didn't have to stay awake for us. But me and Dan would come home at like 3 a.m. after being at a bar or a club at night, and we'd roll up and we'd see the living room light on, and we'd be like, she's waiting. So she would lock the back door, and then she would go wait in the living room with a light on, just like pizza dudes got 30 minutes, like our Ninja Turtle episode, but like literally just waiting there for us to come home. And then we'd be like, crap, do we even bother trying the back door? Because she's just waiting for the little jiggle of the doorknob to come running down the stairs and get close enough so she could smell our breath or do whatever it is that, you know, checking to make sure that we were out doing exactly what she thought we were doing.
Yeah, she was right.
So we would like, okay, let's go try, like jiggle, 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 like down the stairs, open the door, get this close. And for those who are not watching the video of this, but listening to it, my hand is very close to my face right now. She would get this close and then just, you know, be very angry that not only did we break curfew, but we were out there doing the things that she was worried that we were out there doing. But very funny story to me about curfew. So there was a summer where I was like picking up this like welding job. I wasn't actually doing any welding, but I was working with a welder, an electrician slash welder. And I had to wake up at like 4 a.m. for an entire summer and go and work with them. So I'd go to bed at like, you know, like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., try to get a decent night's sleep so I could be up and working with this guy. And Dan would still be out doing what he's doing. Our older brother, Dan, would be out doing what he's doing. He would be out till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever. And I remember this one time, it's like 2:30 maybe, and I'm sleeping. Me and Dan, we shared a bedroom our entire lives. So I'm like 17, 18 maybe. He's like 19, almost 20. We're still sharing a bedroom. And I hear like, and I'm like, what? And I wake up, I look at my clock. I'm like, it is 2:30. What is going on? And then I hear it clearly. And I'm like, it's Dan. Like, why am I hearing this voice? And so I turn on our bedroom light. He's not in the bedroom. He's like, out here. I'm like, what the heck? So I walk out of our bedroom in the basement. I turn left where our recreational room was, just a big empty room. And I flick on the light, and Dan is hanging upside down from the basement window, and his pants are stuck on the nail that was there on the door frame, the window frame. And he's like doing a handstand. His pants are off, and his blood is all the blood is in his head. He's like, get me down from here. And I had to go and like take his pants off of the hook while he falls down on the basement floor because he was out breaking curfew, trying to sneak into the house via the basement window that was opened by an earplug. So the basement window got a lot of action.
Just like we're constantly like testing to like the weak points in the house where we could get in. Like there was the wood pile beside the kitchen window, and sometimes you could climb up the wood pile and slide into the kitchen window, but only when we didn't have the air conditioner unit in, because the air conditioner unit
only good 3 seasons.
So, but we were like constantly, and mom and dad were constantly having to figure out where we were getting in. We were like mice, like where are these kids coming in, because they couldn't catch us. We'd already be in the house, and we could be like, curfew, we didn't miss curfew. And so they had to like shore up the house. It was a fortress against us.
Yeah, we definitely were like the raptors in Jurassic Park, the original one, where they talked about like, yeah, or not only that, but they never touched the same parts of the fence twice. It's like they're just testing the fence for weaknesses. I think there are other rules that just kind of like to this day, I still kind of scratch my head, like the very loose rule about not being able to watch The Simpsons growing up.
Which is wild because we watched The Simpsons so heavily, but we weren't allowed to. So it was like one of those unspoken agreements that we were allowed to do it, and we would never tell mom or dad that we were watching it.
Which is bizarre because mom bought me and Dan Bart Simpson t-shirts that said like, don't have a cow man on it or something like that. And I remember like even that expression, like mom would get angry for like, don't have a cow. She'd be like, excuse you?
No, there's certain words that are not swear words, but were such strong language for our family that I still feel uncomfortable saying them. Like if mom told us to shut up with the consonants hard like that, like you were about to die.
Yeah. It's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where they're like, shut it. It's like,
if mom said you were grounded for 6 weeks. Or like saying the word suck was something that like to this day I
don't you even.
Like mom did not like us to say something sucked.
If you want to get really dicey at mom's house, say something like friggin'. This friggin' sucks. Oh, you are out. Bag of clothes on the deck. You're sleeping outside. This friggin' sucks. Don't have a cow.
Have you been watching Simpsons?
It's like our Footloose. There's no dancing. Ours is like there's no Simpsons. No expressions from the Simpsons are allowed in this house.
Now I watch Simpsons with my kids and I'm like, this is such wholesome entertainment.
Why don't you guys go downstairs and watch The Simpsons?
Please learn something. Learn a thing or two about how to be a nice, normal family.
Anyway, so I thought there were multiple rules that I think probably if we went back, we're like, yeah, that was kind of weird or that didn't make sense. But
one that does like truly has done lasting damage, and like this is truly something like I work through in my marriage, is we were never allowed to say yes if someone offered us something. And that was a hard and fast rule. It would be like if someone offered you a glass of water when you're in the middle of the Sahara, you say, no, thank you, I'm fine. It was probably like 3 weeks ago. Justin, our bedroom's upstairs. Justin's like, I'm going down. Do you want a glass of water? And I was like, I did. I was like, no, I'm okay. I'm going to go down later and get one. And he's like, I'm going down right now. I'll get you a water when I come back up. I was like, no, I need to go downstairs and like start the dishwasher, whatever. He's like, Jacqueline, like what is wrong with you and your brain? He's like, just accept the glass of water. It's okay for you to say yes to a glass of water. I'm like, I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah. And that one started off as a rule that we are not allowed to ask for things at people's houses, which I believe maybe was rooted in some like understanding the dynamics of a lot of our friends, their situations, and not trying to be a burden at somebody's house. So it started at that, but then it's like bled over into like, do not even be noticed. When you are at a friend's house, it is, you must be silent. You must not ask for anything. You must not accept anything. You must not talk. You're just there.
I think the overarching rule is like you could never be an inconvenience to another person.
Which I think, again, rooted in maybe some good intention, understanding the dynamics of some of the friends and the families that we're hanging out with, but causes really weird things. Long tail, where you're like 40 and you're like, can I tell my husband I'm thirsty and I want a drink of water?
Okay, so are we ready to talk about our
Let's
siblings
do it.
of the week? I feel like every week I make you like kind of guess it. I don't think we need to guess it. I just want to like, again, set the scene. Porter family, the years, I would say 97, 98. It's a Friday
Good years.
night. It's a Friday night. We're all still pretty young. We're all young enough that we're home on a Friday night, which is an important detail because after this point in time, we just were ships passing past curfew in the night. And
through windows and crevices in the walls.
And just like saluting each other as we go to bed. No, before that, we had what was known as TGIF. And TGIF, for those who are uninitiated, was a block of television shows on ABC. And that happened every Friday night from, I believe, 7 to 10. And they were all sitcoms of the era. But the siblings I actually want to talk about are the Olsen twins, which would have been on Full House. Full House is part of the TGIF lineup. We watched a lot of Full House. And so I was like, I noticed when I was thinking about them, and I'm thinking about siblings all the time now. And I was like, I haven't seen them for a while. Like, what's going on with the Olsen twins? So now I know what's going on with them, and I will pass that information on to you.
I can't wait. I actually woke up this morning wondering to myself, Olsen twins, where are you at?
What's their story? Well, their story is obviously.
So glad you asked.
Segue. The Mary-Kate and Ashley are the Olsen twins. They were born June 13th, 1986, which I'm surprised they're only 2 years younger than me. They've seen like babies. They have a brother who's older and a sister who's younger. Their sister is super famous as well. She's a Marvel person.
Really?
Yeah,
I had no idea. I thought there was just the two of them.
No, their sister is Elizabeth Olsen. She's Wanda, like WandaVision.
Really?
Yeah. So she's a Marvel person. She's super famous as well. Their parents are named Dave and Jarney, which I really
Jarney.
Jarney.
Just sounds like someone saying journey with a weird accent.
Jarney.
Went on a strange journey.
Well, it's definitely Newfoundland. It's a journey.
I went on a journey over there on Saturday, by the way, bye.
So the twins, the whole story of the twins is that they're in 1987, they're cast on Full House as one person, Michelle, and that's the way they skirted the child labor laws at the time. One person, because they were so young, they couldn't have one baby play Michelle, so they would swap.
That's where we draw the line.
Like,
we draw the line right there. You cannot have one baby.
Like
play one baby.
The baby can have a career, but the baby has to be split up by two babies.
and then those two babies can have a career, but they have to be the same career.
The same career. And you know what's interesting is they played the same person. They're actually not identical twins. They're fraternal.
What?
I know. They are not identical.
For those of you who can't see my reaction right now, I am surprised.
So yeah, they are fraternal twins, but they look enough alike that they can play Michelle. They just interchange the babies. They would have been 3 years old when they started their acting career, and they have been in the business since they were 3 years old.
I wonder if one was preferred over the other during the filming. Like, this is a scene. We really need someone to nail this.
We really gotta get Ashley in here.
Ashley, we need you.
In 1993, on the heels of them being so successful, their parents create a company called Dual Star, and they start producing things for the twins on their own. 2 years later, their parents do get divorced, and it's definitely like at the height of Dual Star. It's the height of when they start. Full House starts to come to an end, and they're like, what do we do with these kids? They know they're extremely bankable because everybody loves Michelle. She's a star. Remember, you got it, dude, all that. I mean, she was the star of Full House. And so they knew that they were extremely bankable. Now they're like, what do we do with these kids now after Full House ends?
After this incredible career of one person, how do we split this into two, finally, publicly?
Double the money. So that what they first tried to do is a bunch of like direct to video movies, which remember being in like the Video 99, which was the video store near our house, and like the direct to video ones that always had just like in our family, in my kids, we call it the Muppets version of something, because in the Muppets movie there's the Muppets, and then the band that plays in Reno, Nevada is the Muppets, and they're all just like slightly off the real real Muppets.
Yes.
So the direct-to-video movies were always just like a Muppets version of something that already existed. And so that's what they did. They did direct-to-video movies such as hits like To Grandmother's House We Go and How the West Was Fun.
Ooh, I see what they did.
They knew what they were doing. They knew what they're doing. And then they actually do like a series of movies that are just like The Adventures of Mary-Kate and Ashley. And they just pump those out for 3 years. And it's like different things. Like one time they're detectives, like just doing stuff. They're just trying to keep them in the limelight as much as possible. This again is all through Dual Star. Their parents are running everything. In 95, they do their first real movie that actually has a release with our good friend Steve Guttenberg, the Goot. That's It Takes Two, which is again just a Muppets version of Parent Trap, like where they meet at camp and they're like, oh, we're twins. Your mom and my dad are our mom and dad.
This is weird. And we're at the same camp.
Now, what are the odds? Where have I heard this before? Oh, wait, The Parent Trap, a different movie that came out at the exact same time. They also, honestly, it's so funny we're talking about Simpsons because at the time they're also doing guest spots all over the place. Their agent is just keeping them in front and they do a guest spot on The Simpsons as well. They're doing bit parts. And they also do a lot of bit parts. We're talking about TGIF. They still come back and do bit parts and special appearances. Like, remember on TGIF when they would do like a special appearance and it was a person who was well known and it was always before a live studio audience. And like a person would come in and be like, did someone say twin? And everyone would
clapping and everyone's so surprised that both of them are there.
Also, they did an episode of Seventh Heaven. Have you seen the guy on Instagram and TikTok that does Seventh Heaven recaps?
No.
Okay. Please go. His name is Heartthrob Anderson at Heartthrob Anderson. And he just does like quick recaps of Seventh Heaven and also like weird movies of that time. But they are so funny because Seventh Heaven was truly a wild show about a minister and his 7 children.
Okay, I'm going to look for that one in particular because it's just so bizarre.
Or there was one where Jessica Biel, who was on it, stole a glass from a restaurant and like felt so guilty she had to like confess to her minister dad. Anyway, Heartthrob Anderson, go there, check out his Seventh Heaven recaps. You will not be disappointed. So they're trying to get some also sitcoms of their own off the ground based around the Olsen twins. Nothing really takes. They finally end up doing New York Minute. It's the last time they act together, and it's the last time Ashley ever acts, period, from this moment.
Really?
She stops acting. So they are at about this time, like 17, I believe, and they kind of are like, what do we do now? When they turn 18, they take over possession of Dual Star, and they become the co-presidents of their own company. Their parents no longer have it. So they turn 18 and take over Dual Star, and they they put their name and their faces on everything. They have a clothing line at Walmart. They have fragrance and makeup. They have board games. They have calendars. They have a line of their own phones. Barbie Mattel creates a line of Mary-Kate and Ashley dolls. Like, they could not be bigger. And when they turn 18, they are ranked the 11 richest women in entertainment with a net worth combined of $100 million at 18.
Oh my gosh.
And the brunt of that is just pure licensing. Also, one of the things that they also licensed themselves to was, remember like magazines? Remember the Tiger Beat magazines? Remember those?
Yes, absolutely.
They go to Becker's.
I did not expect to hear the word Becker's again for the rest of my life. And then here we go. On a random Thursday morning for me.
It's the convenience store by our house, and we'd go there, I think, every day in the summer and buy like popsicles. You go get a popsicle. If you had some money, issue of Tiger Beat, which would literally be like, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, 5 reasons he's your next boyfriend, and just the wildest things. And they were marketed specifically to teenagers.
I remember those.
That, and like, I remember being in like 8th, 9th grade, and the Wild West that was like teenage magazines at that time. Like, I remember just like putting straight lemon juice on my face because YM magazine said it would like clear up my acne. And it's just like,
toothpaste. I 100% put toothpaste on some pimples because one of your magazines, I'm assuming.
Because I remember you asking me about it, and I'm like, you should put toothpaste on your face. And you came out of the bathroom and it was like your whole face is toothpaste. It's like in Mrs. Doubtfire when she puts her face in the pie.
I'm like, this is all for the sake of clean skin. And it didn't help at all. Spoiler alert for those of you who are rushing to your bathroom right now to cover your pimples in toothpaste, it doesn't work.
Doesn't work. I would truly do, as a teenager, I would truly do anything but actually wash my face to clean it.
Lemon, some lemon zest, some oatmeal, some toothpaste.
Doesn't matter. So anyway, by 18, they're extremely wealthy, all on the backs of this licensing deal, and they're still making like residuals on whatever they're acting, but Ashley does not want to act again. Mary-Kate does try to act a couple more times, but they're like universally panned. If you've ever heard of the movie Beastly, it's a retelling, it's a modern retelling of Beauty and the Beast. Okay. And she plays the evil witch. It's truly an upsetting movie because as for the Beast, the guy just has like a lot of tattoos. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's rude to people who have tattoos. Was she still playing in twin movies, but now playing both twins? It's a complete opposite of how they started their career. She's now both twins. She's a pokeroo. Wait, should I explain what a pokeroo is really fast?
Yes, I was just going to say that we probably need some context on the pokeroo.
Especially because pokeroo is something I learned about the trick as an adult. As a kid, I did not understand the trick of pokeroo. We used to watch a show called Polka Dot Door. It was like a children's show that was on Canadian public television. And there was a pokeroo he kind of looked like a giraffe. He was green. He had like a long neck, and he was just kind of like a silly little monster. And there would be a man and a woman on the show that were like kind of like the hosts of the show. And the pokeroo only ever showed up when the man was gone. And so the girl would interact with the pokeroo, and then he would leave, and the man would come back, and she'd be like, "You just missed the pokeroo." And he'd be like, "I missed the pokeroo again." And it wasn't until I was probably 35 that I realized that the man was pokeroo.
No.
And like the laser beams that shot out of my eyes when it was like when you found out that Mary-Kate and Ashley were fraternal. That's how I felt learning that the man was the pokeroo. I was like, wait a minute. I just thought he was really got that.
I wish I could have been the one to break that to you on the pod.
I wasn't like actively thinking or looking up anything about the pokeroo. I was just like sitting there by myself, and I'm like, the pokeroo. He was the man. Justin's like, what?
And you said it out loud, and Justin was like, does this mean you want to drink water now?
Justin, wake up! It's pokeroo's the man.
The pokeroo. He has no idea. Justin, your husband is American, did not grow up watching the pokeroo. Like, the what?
And then I have to explain it every time. It's like a 30-minute ordeal every time I use the pokeroo. I really just like it because I get to be the center of attention. I'm like,
you're like, it's like Mr. Crenshaw in today's special, and people are like, we don't know what that is either. Just really straight vintage public television. Yeah, just like Muffy the Mouse. We'll get into those in future episodes for those of you who are extremely confused right now, but these are hyper Canadian public television references going on here.
So you're welcome to our Canadian population, all three of them. Our family members.
And not even all of them. It's not even all of them. Just some of them have opted out. Like I see the unsubscribes. It's like unsubscribe. These are all family members.
So after they're kind of deciding that not to act anymore, they both go to NYU, but both of them don't make it past sophomore year. They both drop out. Mary-Kate gets very unhealthy. It was also during the height of like thin culture. So this like the turn of 99 to 2000 where they'd literally be magazines that were like, at 98 pounds, is she too fat? Constantly people were asking. Being a teenage girl during this time was truly just a nightmare because even the twins go on Oprah, and Oprah's like, what size are you guys? And it's like, imagine being like a 19-year-old girl on national television, and Oprah herself is like, have you put on 3 pounds lately?
She actually asked them that?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, I'm going to go find let's put that YouTube clip on the Substack.
Blast. I'm coming.
Let's put her on blast.
No,
unless she wants to sponsor this, in which case, hey.
Have you listened to Oprah lately?
No.
I don't even know where to find Oprah. She's just on a ranch somewhere with what's her friends in Stedman? I was like, Frederick, that's not right.
Who insisted that the ranch is called the Studman Ranch?
Oh, Stedman. Another thing that they do, like in the media, is they start pitting the twins against each other. Like, which one is the hotter twin? Which one's the thinner twin? Maxim, in their top 100 hottest women of the year in like 2001, only list Ashley. They leave.
No.
Mary-Kate is like, okay, I know what you're trying to do here.
Lucky for us, we're starting this podcast. We're in the public eye later in our lives. So when that happens to us, I think we'll be okay. You'll be okay being left off the list, knowing that I'm right up there as rising stars in the podcast world.
And as I have just eaten snow cones for the past week, I'll tell you now, I have gained 5 pounds. So I'm all right with it. Mary-Kate starts to get really unhealthy. She's using drugs at this point. She goes to rehab. As she's going to rehab, Ashley goes to intern for Zach Posen, which is a fashion house, if you're unfamiliar.
Mhm.
So the media is pitting them against each other. They are doing separate things, but nothing that I can tell is like they actually hated each other or anything. I mean, they're still running Dual Star at the time together, and they've just seen less together. In 2006, they begin The Row, which, again, if you're unfamiliar with, is a fashion house, and it is incredibly huge now. The Row started as Mary-Kate and Ashley decided to just perfect the white t-shirt, and that's what they founded the entire company on. The Row now, they're $250 to $300 million per year.
Are you kidding me?
In just that. They also have another fashion line that's like a lower priced one that does really well, but I mean, they're still making crazy money. And it starts with The Row, and from The Row on, they never act again. And not only that, they become very, what's the word for it? Reclusive. You just stop seeing them as much in the public eye. They just kind of fade away.
While you're talking, I went and I'm on Wikipedia for The Row. They've won.
Oh yeah, they've won so many awards. It's
wild. CFDA Fashion Awards, Wall Street Journal. It's like every year up until 2021, it looks like that they were nominated.
Yeah, for the last 7 years.
Or women's wear designer of the year, and they've won multiple times. This is wild. I had no idea. I knew they had their own fashion line, and I knew it was successful, but I had no idea it was to this extent. That's
and
crazy.
the whole thing about The Row is like everything's just like a really well-made basic piece. So it'd be like a basic t-shirt, a basic trench, basic pair of pants. Like nothing's crazy or anything like that, but it does so well that they then start plowing all of their time and energy in it, and you just don't see them as much as you used to anymore. Like you said, they're extremely successful as designers. To this day, they're really successful. They don't do a lot of interviews. I actually just went looking to like what was the most recent news that like I could find about them, because they really are super reclusive. The best I could find was like 2 months ago, there was a rare outing with their younger sister, Elizabeth. They had a photo at a memorial for Bob Saget, which was their TV dad. They famously did not come back for Fuller House, which was the reboot of Full House, and everybody was super mad about it. It's like, guys, these girls don't need Netflix money. I think they're okay.
They're okay.
And also, after all that, they did say that in an interview that A, they wish nobody had the upbringing that they had because they hated it so much, and B, that they most hate being called the Olsen twins. So I apologize for referring to them as the Olsen twins
through the entire episode. It'll probably be in the show title. It'll be like, and this week, the Olsen twins.
The Olsen twins. So like, apologies.
Letter from the lawyer. Cease and desist.
I
was going to say this. I wonder if it's that Mary-Kate and Ashley if they're like actually reclusive,
mm-hmm.
or if it's just because when they were in the limelight, it was many, many, many years ago,
mm-hmm.
and people just aren't clocked in. Like, I just don't know.
Well, they famously don't have social media.
Well, like one or both of them walking down the street in most cities in the world, right? Like Paris, LA, New York, right? Like, let's get rid of the big cities, London. Outside of them, like, I'm pretty sure they could probably walk unnoticed down any street in any corner of the earth, and it's just regular life for them. But then people like us are like, I wonder what they're up to.
No, like, please leave us alone.
But really, yeah, they're just living their lives, and they're just not in the limelight because they're not in the limelight.
I think so much of celebrity today, modern celebrity, is social media. It's like letting us in on their daily lives. Are they relatable? Do they have avocado toast when they wake up? And these girls are like, no, we're worth $300 million. We're not eating avocado toast. We don't care what you're doing. Because of that inaccessibility, it's a type of celebrity that honestly doesn't exist today, because I think that's what they're pushed to do is, be in front of people's eyeballs all the time and relate to the people. And they are not interested in that at all.
So if you're just tuning in, this is the 90s Celebrity Gossip Podcast, where we talk about artists and people from the 1990s. We gossip about their past, and we try to dig up any dirty laundry that they might have to put them on blast here on this very podcast.
And we think about which one would be our boyfriend from Tiger Beat.
I was just listening to a podcast. can't remember which podcast it was though. Maybe it was like My First Million podcast, perhaps. But anyways, I'm listening to this podcast and this guy was talking about how he went to this concert and he was like so stoked to be at the concert. He pulls out his phone and everybody had their phones out, but he was the only person that had their phone turned, like their camera turned to the singer. Everybody else was recording themselves at the concert.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how when people are buying concert tickets, when they're going to events now, they're using it as a content piece for themselves and associating it with the person that they happen to be seeing. So like I'm at a whatever Kendrick Lamar concert, but this is about me and my experience at the Kendrick Lamar concert and has nothing to do with Kendrick Lamar. And the reason I bring this up is because there is an expectation, I believe, of modern day celebrities to also be that type of like engaged and that accessible. And so like we also see celebrities now being like, I'm just like you because I'm at the same concert that you are. Look, I'm at the Kendrick Lamar concert as well. And we just expect that type of engagement and accessibility to celebrity in general, where when there is a celebrity who doesn't do that, or when there is someone who should be in the public eye or was in the public eye, who's not doing it that way, then we label them as like maybe like a recluse or like a weird shut-in. Really, they're probably out living their day-to-day lives completely, just being completely normal. And we're like, why aren't they on such and such podcast? Or why don't they have social media, right?
Okay, so that's all I have about the Olsen twins. But I did make a list of the, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 TGIF shows. And specifically between 95 and 2000, because I think after that, then we were pretty much out of the house. But I want to see if we can rank them.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll run through them. So start thinking about like where you would put them. Full House. And if you can't remember what it is, let me know because I could give you a quick synopsis of it. Full House, Family Matters, Step by Step, Dinosaurs, Perfect Strangers.
Ooh, okay.
Boy Meets World, Sister Sister, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, Muppets Tonight, and 2020.
Blossom wasn't part of that?
Blossom was an after-school show. It was not a TGIF.
Okay.
And I hate myself for knowing that.
Like it was on every day at 3:30. Okay. So
and often these shows, like once they cycled out of TGIF, they would become like a lunchtime show or an after the school show. So like Family Matters and Step by Step definitely ended up on like the after school circuit.
Are we ranking these together or am I giving my list?
No, I want to come up with a rank that we agree on.
1 through 10?
Yeah.
Okay. So number 1 on that list.
Like what's the one that like absolutely cannot miss?
You know what's weirdly up there for me? 2020.
Okay. Thank you, because 2020 was my number 1, which is wild because we were only like 10 and 11 when we were watching these. It was like Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs on a Friday night, like the thrill that would go through my body when I heard Barbara Walters say, and this is 2020 in her like funny little lisp.
And I don't like Barbara Walters at all. So she can,
well, she's
because
dead.
of, like the Corey Feldman.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But 2020, I think the reason I liked it is because of the access it gave to like the grown-up world, right? Like things that you could know at like a family dinner at somebody else's house.
And it felt like you were getting away with something. Like it felt like we were like, oh, we shouldn't be watching 2020, but here we are watching.
Right up there with The Simpsons.
Hugh Downs interview Hugh Grant on like why he got caught soliciting sex on the side of a street, like that kind of stuff, knowing that at 10 we didn't even know what it meant. It was like, oh, we shouldn't know this, but I like it.
Murder mysteries, drug scandals, like all of that stuff, access to this world that I don't think we would have gotten otherwise. So I think that weirdly for me, that's bizarre. First of all, that was both.
I would agree.
But I would say that's the one that really like was timeless. That went through.
That was the one that like I would be super upset if I missed. That's the other thing is like, guys, we didn't have DVR at this point in time. Like if you missed an episode of something on TGIF, you were out of the loop. So 2020 was, you can't miss 2020.
Yeah, so 2020 is definitely up there. Boy Meets World, like I said, it's probably in the top ranking somewhere, but that's only because I was a teenager trying to look at Topanga. Like that's it.
I strangely do want to say put Dinosaurs in the top because it was such like a moment in time. Do you remember how it ended?
Yeah. Didn't it end with the Big Bang?
Yeah, and they were just like waiting for extinction. I remember like crying over it.
I feel like that one skewed a little bit like younger, maybe.
Mhm.
Like I remember watching it, but I really wasn't into it. For some reason, I feel like Jonathan and or Dallin were into that one. I
Jonathan,
got to check with them.
probably.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like
Call him. Did you watch Dinosaurs?
on the pod speaker, I'll put him on speaker. You're like, why are you calling me at 12:30 a.m.?
Okay, so what if we put 2020 number one? I would say Boy Meets World. The thing, the will they or won't they of Boy Meets World was so good for teenagers. Like, ooh, Korea and Topanga gonna end up together. Like,
Yeah.
I had a friend at school who looked just like Ryder Strong, and I was obsessed with him because I was obsessed with Ryder Strong. So I'm actually gonna put Boy Meets World at number two.
We had a friend that we used to call Topanga because she looked like
I remember.
Topanga.
Was she not the one that your friend was trying to brush her hair and he took a round brush,
No,
brushed it through her hair and did this with it, and then it got caught?
She was there. Yeah, she was there. So we had a buddy who we were some guys and we were with a group of girls and we were getting ready to go out for the night. And this girl's like, I just need to brush my hair. And my buddy was like, oh, do you want me to do it? Trying to be sweet because he liked her. And then he started brushing her hair and we're looking at this guy like, yo, what are you doing, dude? Like, why would you volunteer? Like, why? And then so for him to try to like make it up to us being like, I'm not doing this to be sweet. I'm doing it because I'm playing a prank. He grabbed, it's one of those brushes where it's like, I don't know what it's called, but it's a circle brush. Oh, yeah, round brush. And so he put it in between his hands and rolled it like he's trying to start a fire. And it just rolled all the way up into her hair and got tangled up to the point where she couldn't remove it, didn't come out for the night. She was in tears. She ran up to her bedroom and he was like caught in like we thought it was hilarious. She hated him for it. And he was just in a tough spot. But so, okay. So Boy Meets World is up there. You said Dinosaurs. Okay. I'll give you that one. Like, okay. Again, I wasn't really into it. Full House. Like, I feel like it's got to be up top 5 somewhere.
Yeah, I would put it in 4. The only thing about Full House was that after it phased out of TGIF, it became too accessible and it was on all the time. But during when it was there, like you never missed an episode of Full House. That would be crazy. Kimmy Gibbler? Absolutely not.
Yeah, true. Family Matters for me, up there.
Yeah.
Family Matters was good. Really, really like Family Matters.
When Steve Urkel would become Stefan.
Oh, absolutely. And it was just him being like normal him. But he'd have this like swag that just
real smooth
didn't have.
I also would say, I don't know if this is much for you, but I do use Muppets a lot to refer to things like Muppets or whatever. Like Muppets comes up a lot, and I did like Muppets Tonight a lot.
So Muppet Babies is the number 1 show for us in our house right now.
That's so really funny.
I get a lot of Muppet Babies, and Noah's hilarious because she's like the other day we were driving and she goes, Daddy, we were driving up to the north part of the island. It's an hour and a half away. It was just her and I were going to this beach on Ocean Day, which was a national holiday here on Monday. And we went to this beach. We were the only people there. But she's like, Daddy, do you want to tell jokes? And I'm like, sure. And so she does these jokes where she's like, why did the chicken cross the road? And you're like, why? She's like, because the eggs didn't come out upside down and the tree was blowing. Waka waka. And she always ends with the waka waka, which is hilarious. Like, it's like she's making fun of it, adding the waka waka. And it's like, it should be like an SNL skit where someone delivers just like horrible news, but they're like, waka waka. At the end, they're like, you've got 3 days to live, waka waka. And it's just like, that's how she delivers it. It's hilarious, but she'll tell joke after joke after joke and end it with waka waka. And at the end, she's like, Daddy, I love telling jokes with you. I'm like, me too. And please don't ever change this.
It makes me happy because I think one of the reasons like our sense of humor were built around like the Muppet idea of like taking a joke way too far. So I always say my favorite kind of humor is something that starts off funny, goes too far, and then it's not funny anymore, but then goes so far that it comes back to being funny.
Because you're so tired of it.
Because you're just like, this is ridiculous. And that's very Muppets to me, like everything, the chickens, the Meeper, the Swedish Chef, all of that starts off being funny, is no longer funny because it's too old, and then it's just ridiculous funny. And I like hearing Noah is like gaining a sense of humor through Muppets is truly warming my heart.
Yeah, waka waka. And I think I talked about this in a previous episode as well, but we had to create ice cream cards for Noah because she loves ice cream so much. And so I'm like, okay, well, here are 3 ice cream cards per week, every Monday that resets. And we're trying to teach her these values of like, using these ice cream cards wisely and not eating ice cream every day. So last week we were driving home from school and I was like, oh, it's Monday. You get your ice cream cards back today. And she's like, Daddy, why do I only get 3 ice cream cards? And I'm like, again, we're trying to teach you this. And we don't want you to have ice cream every day. We want you to make some good decisions about the food that you're eating, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, but Daddy, I'm like, what? She goes, ice cream is my destiny. And I'm like, okay. Okay, I'm sure it is. And then sure enough, it's straight from Muppet Babies. It's Miss Piggy said something is her destiny.
Okay, well, that means Muppets gets to be in the top 6 for me.
Okay, top 6. Yeah, I you know what? Those are some timeless classic characters. So I'm there.
We still have Hanging with Mr. Cooper, Sister Sister, Perfect Strangers, and Step by Step.
So I weirdly like Perfect Strangers a lot.
Belky? Are you kidding me? I love Perfect Strangers.
I really liked Perfect Strangers. I remember also wanting to really like Hanging with Mr. Cooper. But I feel like it skewed a little bit older. But I remember I really wanted to like it because some of the older kids were into it and they happened to be the kids that I thought were cooler older kids. So I really wanted to like it. I think again, that was just a little bit ahead of me in terms of age.
Okay, so that I would actually probably put Step by Step last. I didn't like when they would build up like tension between the boys and the girls in the family, but because they were stepbrother and sister was okay. That creeped me out a little bit. They were all far too good looking and in relationships, and I felt uncomfortable by Step by Step. So that means Sister Sister is number 9.
Sister Sister was good though. I like Sister Sister. Are we saying that's number 9?
Right now, the Sister Sister's at number 9, unless you want it to go above Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Oh, I definitely think it's better than Hanging with Mr. Cooper for me because like the context was there and like it was funny.
Okay, so the ranking is as follows. Number 1 is 2020. Number 2, Boy Meets World. Number 3, Dinosaurs. Number 4, Full House. Number 5, Family Matters. Number 6, Muppets Tonight. Number 7, Perfect Strangers. Number 8, Sister Sister. Number 9, Hanging with Mr. Cooper. And number 10, Step by Step.
Yeah, I think that tracks.
If we are adding Baywatch into the mix, which was on TGI for a while, it jumps into number 1 every time.
Really?
The Pamela Anderson, David Hasselhoff. I was like, speaking of shows that we were like, we shouldn't be watching this, but still watched.
Yeah, it checked a lot of boxes.
Sometimes you get like an unsolved mysteries in there that I would like. I would still.
I'm there for that. Unsolved mysteries, cops.
Aaron, my youngest son, talks like the guy on Unsolved Mysteries, where he just asks weird questions. Like yesterday he asked what it would be like to go through life being the size of a piece of paper. And then the day before that, he was like, do you think objects like to be used, or do you think they get sad when you don't use them? And he's always asking me these, like, I don't even know like how to answer. Most of the time, like, just please stop. Like, you're so weird. Just talk about something normal.
You need to get the Chat GPT app on your phone because you can talk to it. You can talk to it and it'll entertain any conversation.
Aaron, don't speak to me. Just talk to your computer friend.
Yeah, talk to your computer friend. You can choose the voice.
When I was a kid, I had this book. It was called The Canadian Treasury for Children. And it was a book of, I still have it. I brought it with me when I moved to the States so I could have one day, like, have it for my kids. But it was a book just of like Canadian folklore or excerpts from specifically Canadian stories. And one of them was a story about a boy who lived underground. And he had this friend that he would talk to every day and play chess. And he had never seen outside. And his parents always told him it's too dangerous to go outside. But he had this one friend, and that was like his reason for living. Every day after homeschool, he'd go play chess with his friend. And then he gets outside and realizes that the apocalypse has happened and he's been talking to a computer this time.
What?
And that was just in like a little storybook for children.
What, isn't that like the plot of the movie? It's like John Goodman, they're underground. He's telling people not to go outside. And they actually, that's it. It's Cloverfield. This was brought from a Canadian national treasure. Also, how thoughtful of you to be like, one day I'm going to pass down this Canadian treasure. When we left Canada, we're looking around the house. We've got like very few things that are like those type of like heirlooms or like passed down through. Seiko took a butter knife because there was a butter knife that I had in my apartment that was Nanny's butter knife. And I remember just like randomly telling her one day and be like, yeah, this is from my grandparents. I don't know why I have it, but she was like packing stuff up and she's like, I'm going to bring this butter knife. So now if you go into our kitchen, everything matches except for this one random butter knife that she took, and she's like, I'm going to keep this.
I don't know if you can cut this out or not, because this might have trigger words, but last week had trigger words too. But mom took silverware from her parents when they passed away. That was like something that they passed to her, was silverware. And we had the serving spoon, and no one had ever, I mean, like, how much do a group of kids look at a serving spoon? Like, she used it all the time. And one day we had people over for dinner, and they were serving something with the serving spoon, and he flipped it over and realized there's a swastika on the back of the spoon.
On the back of the spoon.
And our granddad, he was in the Air Force in World War II. He took it from them when he came home and just put it amongst the rest of his silverware. And we'd been using
just mixed it in.
Nazi spoon for years.
And nobody for years picked up on the same.
No clue.
Somebody's over there scooping out some mashed potatoes, happens to look at the back of the spoon, was like looking around the table.
The lights all turned off.
Trying to figure out like just how deep we are. And then is like, excuse me, the bet. And everyone's like, what the heck? We had no idea, but yeah. So we end our episodes by digging into our chat history with family over the past week or weeks and pulling out what we like to call which we like to call something that I can't say, which we like to call unhinged texts from a family member.
I usually now I'm just looking for like unhinged and seeing how often it happens. Like, you know, when you buy a red car and all you see is red cars. Now that we do this, I'm like, our family's just a mess.
Completely unhinged.
But this one is actually from you. We have a Porter sibling thread. And it was when you shared the snake that they caught next to your house.
Oh, we got to put this picture on the Substack.
We definitely will, because it's enormous, and just looking at it is making me uncomfortable. Like, you know, when you get that like sweaty feeling in your throat, like you're gonna throw up. When I see this snake, that's what happens.
If there could be hidden cameras around the house to watch me going outside around my house right now, the way I'm looking for snakes everywhere. Like my motorcycle cover, I'm like shaking it with a stick before I get on my motorcycle. So any snakes are going to drop out. Like I am right now, high alert.
You had just sent the picture and said, look at the snake they caught next door yesterday, which I should also say, animals are common on the sibling thread. Like a dead bird that has flown into a window, like that. It's not uncommon to see weird animal pictures. Jonathan said, no, thank you. You said insane A. And I said, absolutely not. You said it wasn't a poisonous one, but nobody knew that until after the city snake catcher dude and the police came to take it away. And I said, what a weird job, first of all. And Dallin said, I would immediately puke and faint into the puke.
I've died reading that one. It was so good. It was so good. And also so Dallin.
Won't just for like 4 months, and then he just
ducks into a chat and hits us with the little cherry on top. The conversation is like everyone's just kind of like testing the waters with a joke, and he'll just come in with the one hitter quitter. He just jumps in there. He's like, I would puke and then faint into my puke. And if I remember correctly, separate messages.
Which is like way to use messaging the way it's supposed to be used. It's like, give people a beat before you send in the cherry topper.
And I imagine him having it locked and loaded. That second one, he pressed send on the first one, typed out the second one, waited for like a few read receipts to show up, and then was like, boom,
like now,
right at the moment into the puke. It was so good.
We all know he won that one. We're like,
we're like, all right, on to the next topic.
Does anybody else have a dead animal we can share?
Yeah, that was good. But definitely we will get that picture on the Substack so people can understand how this snake was. It is scaling a wall vertically in the picture.
Sweaty throat.
I went to Reddit. There's a subreddit called What is This Snake? Because I obsessed about the snake for like 2 weeks because it kept on coming up as this thing. It's called a Taiwanese habu. And the Taiwanese habu is the most aggressive, most poisonous snake in Okinawa. And so I'm like, it's totally it. But I couldn't rest. And so one night at like 1:30 a.m., I get on the subreddit for What is This Snake? And I'm like, my neighbors found this. The picture's not the greatest quality. And like within seconds, somebody responds and says, oh, that's the Taiwanese beauty snake.
Oh, so that's not scary because it's beauty?
Invasive, but harmless. I was fully under the impression that the city guy took it away, but apparently the city guy got here just as it was climbing or like scaling, slithering into a like drain pipe, and he was like, meh. So the police officer and the city snake
is out of a job today.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I'm going to go home and wait for another call. Anyway, that is that episode number something of the Dreyer Drive podcast. Go to the Substack, DreyerDrive.com. We'll forward you there. We'll include some of the pictures and some of the show notes from today. And as always, it really helps podcasts like ours when you leave comments, when you rate, when you subscribe. So please do those things. And if you have any topics that you want us to explore as they are related to siblings, drop us a note and we will make sure to maybe discuss those. We will make sure to maybe do those.
Putting them on my list. My husband today asked me, like, is it hard for you to come up with topics? I'm like, no, this is all I like.
It starts with Nazis and then we just work our way down from there.
To go from Nazis, the Olsen twins, then to
completely unrelated, we're unrelated, but then also Ninja Turtles. Also Ninja Turtles and some people that scam McDonald's.
I was just going to say. And Conan O'Brien.
And which was not really about Conan O'Brien. We're like, remember watching Conan O'Brien? Yes, let's talk about ourselves for an hour.
Which is the true conceit of this entire podcast.
If there's one episode that sums up us, it's like, let's talk about Conan O'Brien. But only about ourselves for literally an hour and 30 minutes.
In context to one of the most famous people in entertainment, we're like, you know what's great about Conan is that we love him.